Dear participants, first of all, I greet you all with respect. In our article, we will try to talk about the Ottoman land system. Although the Ottoman land system was influenced by the preceding Roman and medieval land system, it also contained unique elements. Likewise, the Ottoman land system also predominantly included elements of the land and property system in Islamic law. As a matter of fact, the land system applied in 1299, which is accepted as the foundation date of the Ottoman state, was predominantly based on Islamic law. However, the land system, especially the Miri land regime, was established and continued within the framework of universal rules and secular law with the laws named Kanunname, enacted within the scope of the legislative power, customary law, granted to the head of state, albeit limited in a slightly different way from the Islamic inheritance system. The essence of the Ottoman land system was essentially Miri land. According to one determination, 87% of the land was Miri land. For this reason, Miri land, and in this context, the Timar system will constitute the basic framework of my presentation. The Timar system has been argued by Western historians, especially Leopold Rank, to be the most important first building block of the three foundations for the power of the statement of the Ottoman state. The basis of the Timar system was the İkta system, which had been practiced since the early periods of Islam. İkta system literally means to cut and divide into parts. It refers to the granting of full ownership of a portion of the Beytül Mal land or its benefits to a person or group by the caliph or the head of state, the state. As a matter of fact, this system was also practiced by the Selçuk Empire, and the Ottoman Empire formed the Miri land regime by reshaping the system in the Islamic and Selçuk states according to its own structure and needs. Although the Timar system resembles European feudalism, it has many different aspects that differ from it. It can be said that the Ottoman Empire took elements from each of the Roman, Byzantic, Islamic, Seljuk, Iranian, and even Western European and Mongolian empires, and created its own Anik Miri land regime and Timar system. The legal status of freehold land was equivalent to ownership in today's sense. These lands could be freely bought and sold and divided as they passed to heirs. In other words, Islamic inheritance law applied here. There were no rules preventing the inheritance of property land. However, individuals could prevent it from being divided or confiscated when they allocated the land to a foundation. Secondly, we can talk about Vakf land. These are places whose land belongs to established foundations. Thirdly, we can talk about abandoned land, places such as roads, bridges, which are left for the use of everyone, and places such as pastures, winter pastures, threshing floors, coppices, which are allocated to a certain group, for example, to a certain village. Fourthly, we can talk about Mavat land. These are places that are not suitable for agriculture, far from settlement, and can be acquired through reclamation. And Miri arazi, Miri land. The bare property belongs to the state, and the right of disposition belongs to private persons. In fact, it can be thought of as a lease agreement, but this is an invalid lease contract according to Islamic law, because a lease contract is for a period of time. However, here it is an indefinite contract. The tenant leases the land indefinitely, and as a rule, when he dies, the contract ends. But during this period, this tenant is considered as the owner. I know it is a little bit complicated. The state grants this land to an official for any reason, such as showing usefulness in war. This person becomes the owner of the land in return for certain obligations. In our presentation, we will call this person officer. This person does not have the right to manage the land on his or her own behalf. Nor can he let someone else manage it on his behalf. He has to give it to the villagers. The villagers will cultivate this land. So we can see this as a sublease transaction. The peasant will cultivate the land in his own name and only pay taxes. but he has to cultivate it all the time. If he does not cultivate for 3 consecutive years, he will have to pay additional tax. The official timar owner was responsible for collecting taxes from the peasants' produce and also from the peasant himself. In addition, the official had to prepare soldiers called Cebelü during the war. The preparation and expenses of these soldiers belonged to the officer. The officer was only the owner of the land. He is not the owner of the peasants. In fact, as can be seen, this system is not a grant of land. Rather, it was aimed at ensuring the collection of the certain taxes. Those who use these lands are also limited in their dispositions on the land. For example, planting too many trees and building too many buildings for agriculture requires a permit. Some dispositions are also prohibited. For example, bring the debt or turning the land into a meadow. Also, those who use the land cannot sell it, donate it, or subject it to foundation or guardianship. On the other hand, it's possible to divide the land, but there are some conditions. Each share must be suitable for agriculture on its own. At least one of the partners must demand it. This division should not have harmful consequences for the state treasury. It must be a fair division. It must have the permission of the official. Miri land can be transferred with the permission of the state, with or without compensation. The issue we need to emphasize here is the issue of inheritance of Miri land. In case of that, the right to dispose of Miri land passes free of charge to relatives of a certain degree. In the beginning, this right passed only to male children, but in time it expanded to include daughters, parents, descendants other than children, spouses, siblings, children, grandparents, and their descendants. In other words, no partition was made to the heirs, and even Islamic inheritance law was not fully applied in such place. This was justified by the fact that the right ownership of Miri land already belonged to the state. Moreover, one of the main purposes of this type of inheritance was to prevent the agriculture lands from being divided into small pieces that would prevent them from being used efficiently. For this reason, it was accepted for a long time that in the event of the death of the disposer, the right of disposition would pass the eldest male son. In the early periods, if the disposer did not have a son, it was entrusted to whomever the official wanted and not to other heirs. However, with a Sultan's edict issued in 1552, if there was a daughter, it was also accepted to be transferred to her or her siblings at an appropriate price. In case where a person died without leaving an heir and the heir was required to pay a price, the land would be transferred to the state due to failure of the heir to pay this price, which was called land vacancy in Ottoman word mahlulat. What is situation for the official when this right is transferred among the villagers? We can answer the question as follows. When the official dies, this right passes only to the male child. The aim is not to divide the land. In addition, anyone who cultivated Miri land for 10 years without despite and without interruption, even if he did not pay the legal deed fee, was entitled to the right of disposition, which was called right of decision. Since of founding years of the Ottoman Empire, a significant portion of the conquered lands, Anatolian and Rumelia lands, were considered as Miri lands, and the tax revenue of the lands were collected by certain individuals through the timar system. However, the fact that the timar owners left the tax collection to the refugees, who were a kind of subcontractors, turned into an environment of oppression in order to collect more taxes from the poor peasants and brought about the end of the timar system. The number of timars which reached its peak during the reign of Kanuni and reached to 100,000 decreased to 20,000 in 1768, and the timars start to be sold to others, even though it was forbidden to be left to sons or refugees and not to go to war. As a result of such deterioration, the timar system was abolished in 1703 as specific to the island of Crete. Timars were no longer granted throughout the Ottoman geography as of 1812, and the timar system was abolished with the Tanzimat Edict of 1839, which necessitated a readjustment of the rights over the lands belonging to the state treasury, especially Miri land. It should be noted that the Turkish Civil Code, which entered into force in 1926, was based on a different regime than the land law in terms of land ownership, namely the civis land ownership, the system that prioritized private ownership. Likewise, for the first time, in cases where there was an agricultural enterprise in the inheritance, the principle was introduced that this enterprise and the land connected to it should not be divided and should be allocated to an heir. This law was later repealed, but during the Republican period, many special laws were enacted in addition to the general rules on the allocation of agricultural immovables to heirs. Finally, when the transfer and division of agricultural lands could not be prevented, the soil conservation and the land use law dated 2005 and was enacted, which contains definitive provisions to prevent division and aims to transfer agricultural immovables to one of the heirs instead of allocating them to heirs. Of course, our recommendation is not to privatize all properties. This has had positive results for its time. Agricultural productivity increased and land was not divided. The subsequent transfer of these lands to private ownership is another matter. It is actually a tragedy. They acquired ownership of these properties only because they had been using them for a long time. In order to keep them undivided, they were initially allowed to be owned by some feudal lords. However, when they died, these properties were divided by their children. Most of the time years of litigation took place between them. I know of land cases in Turkey that have been going on for 70, 80 years. One more point may be of interest. Cousin marriage is common in Turkey. The most important reason for this is the desire not to divide property. This is even more common in families that continue the feudal tradition. Fortunately, there is no example of this in my family. I think this is because we don't have land. Today, the solution is not so easy, since private property is sacrosanct in the eyes of legal texts. What needs to be done is to take measures to ensure that properties suitable for agriculture are not divided. This is what Turkey is doing. Thank you. Finally, I have a favor to ask you. My English not very sufficient when you see. And in every presentation, when the subject is Ottoman, unfortunately, I get a lot of questions. This causes me some stress. Please forgive me this time. But I will give my email address to those who have questions. I promise to send them a long email with long explanations. Thank you very much.